What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the 2 Feet on the Ground Gravity Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Chris. Thank you for choosing to tune in today. Hey, folks, you are in for a treat. Every time I say that, I realize I say it every time. But here's the reality, folks. I'm not going to invite someone here on the show unless I think they're going to bring some perspective to this conversation. How do we stay grounded in life? What are our foundations that help us keep perspective in a world that's full of noise and chaos? And today's guest, athlete, competitive shooter, Mikayla Hill, I think is going to do exactly that. Give you some rocking perspectives that she has learned through living life and through being a competitive shooter that you're going to be able to apply in your everyday life. But before we get to that interview, as always, I want to talk about Service Peace Warriors. Service Peace Warriors is a 501c3 nonprofit that's taking care of our nation's heroes. That's right, our veterans that are returning from war with post-traumatic stress injuries or other war-related disabilities. Yep, Service Peace Warriors has their back. They are raising all the funds themselves to train and equip these veterans with service animals. But they've taken it a step further. They started Maddox Dog Training Academy, and they're taking the proceeds from their for-profit business to do the exact same thing for first responders, equipping them with service animals as well. Folks, if you haven't checked them out today, please do so. servicepeacewarriors.org. It's worth your time. With that, folks, let's jump into our interview with Mikayla Hill. Mikayla Hill, thanks for joining me tonight on the Gravity Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, I've been following you for a while on your Instagram channel, Hill of a Shooter. Love it. Love it. Play off your last name. Remarkable. And just really enjoying watching your competitive shooting world, and then also your quirkiness. You like to have a little bit of fun with some of your videos too, which I always appreciate, right?
Yes, I do.
Especially over the last couple of years. Like, all of us need something to smile about and have a little fun, and all of us being creative and putting stuff out is fun. Hey, tell us, the listeners don't know you yet. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into competitive shooting.
Sure. So I have been competing in the sport of USPSA, which stands for the United States Practical Shooting Association. And I've been doing that for 12 years now. During that time, I have taken several state titles, as well as placing as high as second lady in the nation. And then currently I am also an assistant coach to a junior team. So anyone 18 years or younger, getting to bring kiddos into our sport and teach them the ropes of the sport and life lessons along with that. And kind of what got that all started was my dad, who's in law enforcement, stumbled across the world a while ago and loved it. And my mom started competing with him, and then they were dragging me on the range. So he likes to joke that I was probably born with a gun in my hand, and I've definitely been on the range a lot. And so then around age 12, they actually got me to try out my first match. And ever since then, I've been hooked with it.
Wow, that's remarkable. Hey, you said something there about life lessons. What did you mean by that?
So through our sport, there's actually been a lot of life lessons that have been taught. And so things like I have to be able to step up to the line and perform. And so that's not something I just do in competition, but I can carry that over into my work life as well. Things like the importance of a good handshake and a smile, especially attitude and mental game. When a stage doesn't go well, you got to pick yourself right back up because there's more stages to be done. The game is still going on. So a lot of lessons like that have been learned in a competitive, fun environment that have fully carried over and honestly made me who I am today. Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever had that before where you weren't able to lay that last round down going into the next one, and it just is flooding your brain?
Oh yeah, I'll have my system. If I'm really can't get it out of my head, you'll actually see me. So I'll be like, oh, I gotta go take a drink of water, and I will actually run to my car, and that is my moment of I have until I get to my car to put it behind me, and then I'm walking back to my stage and I'm ready for the next one.
I like it. Yeah. Wow. Great life lessons. I wanted us to talk a little bit about that because I really see the world of athletics being applicable into all of our lives. And I competed in high school and in college a little bit. And there were so many lessons that I learned during my time of being a high school and collegiate athlete that I still apply today. And so how about performance anxiety? Do you ever feel that performance anxiety where, it's like, holy smokes, the pressure's on here and competing against all these, highly skilled people?
Oh, yes. And I think for as long as I've been competing and probably continue when I get done shooting on my first stage, like you'll see my hands are still shaking after that, especially at a major match. So nerves is definitely a factor. But one of the things that we teach our kiddos too on the junior team is that you can't perform your best without that pressure. And I always love the quote that a diamond isn't made without pressure. So being able to use that to our advantage to get those top performances that we want.
Yeah, I was recently listening to this expert on stress, and it was a TED talk, and she was talking about how she was pretty much saying, I've been teaching everyone wrong for the last decade. And what she talked about was the positive attributes of stress, what it does to the human body to cause us to rise to a performance, right? It increases our blood flow, it energizes us, it if used correctly, it really propels us into competition or into life's challenges, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, what do you do then? So what are some of whether you're teaching it to some of the junior members or when you're competing, what are some of the tools that you have to kind of funnel that anxiety, to funnel the stress so that it works for you instead of against you?
Sure. So one of the very first things is I have to not be outcome oriented. I have to let the results be what they are. I have to trust that I put the work in. The skill set that I have, I brought with me, and that's got to be enough. I got to trust myself to get the results that I want. So switching from an outcome oriented perspective to a process oriented perspective. And honestly, you'll see me sometimes on the start of a stage where I'm like kind of bent down, probably even eyes closed. Usually we'll say a prayer so beforehand if I'm really struggling to stay calm, and just remembering why I'm out there. And it's because it's fun and I love to be out there, and stepping up to that line and performing, that's my comfort zone. It's what I love to do. So I have to take it back to the basics and forget about surrounding me in that moment.
I was just watching some of your videos from this last week, and at least I think they were from this last weekend. That's exactly what you were doing. You were hunched over just a little bit. Your eyes were closed. And the other thing I saw you doing is you were breathing. Yeah. I saw you getting oxygen in your body, right? Getting that oxygenated blood to your brain helps, decrease your blood pressure, obviously gives you, I'm assuming, just better performance.
Yeah, so I will actually, people always give me a bad time because they'll see me yawning and they're like, are you ready for a nap? And it's because if you actually force yourself to yawn, it can help calm the body down. So you'll see me force a yawn usually before I go up to shoot. And then we have a command. So make ready means I can load my gun, get ready to go. They'll say stand by, and then they'll hit the button on the timer. And when we hear that beep, we can go. So as they say, make ready, I have a few minutes to make ready, check my sights and everything. And you will see me before I go into my position, which tells them they can start me, take a deep breath, let it out. And that's me in my head because I've prepped. So when that timer goes off, I just want to play the video back in my head. So that's me letting everything go so that my subconscious can take over as soon as I hear the beat of that beep.
How much muscle memory goes into being a competitive shooter?
A lot of muscle memory. So a lot of practice that we'll do is called dry fire. So it can be done at home. There's no live ammunition. And it's just working through your draws and your reloads, trying to ingrain that muscle memory, because there's honestly so much to think about on a given stage to run it well. And so if you had to think about absolutely all of that, you wouldn't be able to have a top performance. So much of it has to be done via the subconscious, and just letting that muscle memory take over to the point you'll see. So we always like to say our sights aren't telling us where the round is going, it's telling us where the round went. So we'll make up a shot and somebody like, why'd you make up that shot? And I mean, I might not even know why I made up that shot. My body just told me that I needed to make that shot up, and that's all muscle memory.
Now you're saying making a shot up is, I know a little bit just because I've done some shooting as well, but explain that a little bit more of making up a shot.
Sure. So on a given stage, we have multiple targets. There's different scoring zones on that target. And typically it will take 2 rounds per target to score. So the maximum you can get is 5 points per round. So 10 points per target for 2 rounds. If I have a miss on that target, which we call a mic, I get penalized 10 points, plus I didn't get the 5 points I could have. So if I know I threw a miss or threw a bad shot, so it's in what we call the delta zone, which is only worth 3 points, the Charlie zone, which is worth 4 points, and then the middle, our A zone, which is worth 5 points. So obviously I want my rounds in the middle. So if I call the bad shot, then I'm going to throw a makeup shot to try to get better points.
Yeah. And do I remember from scrolling your Instagram that you took a makeup shot and you actually already had 2 5s?
Yes. Yeah. I had 2 alphas. It was on a moving target. And I don't know, I didn't call it on there. So I threw another one and they were all beautiful center hits.
That's great. But you have to trust your instincts, right? You
Yes.
have to trust your instincts that didn't feel right. I'm going to give it another one, and it's worth the extra second or so of time to
Yeah.
know
And
that.
yeah, throwing makeup shots is definitely like in that moment, even though I had 2 alphas, that's not something I beat myself up over because I know it's going to be there when I need to. So I want to trust that instinct of throwing that shot because I don't want to get in the habit of not doing that and then not throwing the shot when I needed to actually make it up.
Wow, we're like 10 minutes into this podcast, and we've covered breath control, lowering our heart rate, trusting our instincts. We're already wading pretty heavy into this. Hey, tell us what is it like to, because you have a full-time job. So what is it like to balance a full-time job with being a competitive shooter?
It can be hard, and it can definitely be tempting to not want to put the work in after I've got home from work. So it's important to me to always keep in mind what my goal is and setting a goal. That way I work towards that. So we actually like to, my dad started it, so we've done this for years, but in my bathroom mirror, I have a paper that says, what is your goal and what have you done today to reach it? And it's just kind of that little reminder to put that work in, even if I'm tired coming home after work. And for me, I've tried, do I want to practice in the mornings before I go to work? For me, I'm not a huge morning person, so I don't like to wake up super early. So for me, I like to do it after work, which sometimes I can be of the wrong mindset or just be tired. And so I have to honestly focus my energy and my sights on what my goal is and know that if I want to reach that goal, I got to continue to put the work in no matter what happened in the day before that.
Now, with these goals, are these like the top goal, like I want to finish at this level or I want to get to this level, or is it broken down into smaller steps, these goals that you post on your mirror?
So I like to post what the overall goal is, and then I like to break that down because again, I want to be more process oriented than just outcome oriented. So if I set that goal, so if I say I want to take top lady or top in my division at a match, then I got to break that down and I got to say, what's that going to take? And that helps me plan out what my practices need to be to help improve those skills and hit those steps to reach that goal.
Yeah. Hey, I don't think we've covered this yet. Do you use visualization as well as part of your training regimen?
Yes, visualization is huge. So when we go, so a given stage, and in USPSA, you can think of a stage almost as a maze. So it's this course that you got to figure out the most efficient and best way to run through with the multiple targets appearing. And so we will actually go walk a stage, determine what we think that most efficient plan is. And then I walk that as absolutely many times as I can. And we have what's called, so the shooter's on the line, our next shooter's on deck, and then you have the shooter in the hole. So if you're in the hole or in deck, you will see me in the back of the bay, eyes closed, like hands out, like literally visualizing where each target is, what my feet need to be doing. I actually plan in my breathing in my stage, otherwise I'll find myself holding my breath. And then when I'm the on-deck shooter, we have what we call our safety areas. That's where you can go handle your gun to get it holstered, to get ready to go shoot. In that safety area, I will actually dry fire. So again, I have eyes closed, visualizing those targets, and I have my finger on the trigger of my gun, thinking about what sight picture I need, what trigger, what my trigger should feel like for each of those targets. And so that's why when I get up to that line, and I hear that be the beep, we call just playing the video back. I put all that work in ahead of time. Now I just have to trust myself, let my body take over. I've put into my brain what I want it to do. I got to let it just happen.
I love it. I love it. Hey, I think I shared this with you during our pre-telephone interview. And in 1998, I was competing in track and cross country at Northwest University in Kirkland, over by Seattle. And I had never done any visualization drills whatsoever. And our coach brings us in during cross country season, and he turns off the lights in the gym and tells us to lay back and close our eyes. I'm like, okay, time out. We're getting weird here. What are we doing? And he had us visualize the race. Exactly what you just said. At what point are we sticking with the pack? At what point are we sitting there doing a kick? Doing our breathing. Just everything. And it blew my mind, some of those type of things, how impactful they were in being successful and creating some more of that. I don't want to say muscle memory there, because that's not muscle memory. That's more of the cognitive piece, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Love it. So you're also, how long have you been married?
For a year.
Wow. Okay. So time back. So you're a full-time marketer. You are a competitive shooter athlete, and then you're also learning how to be a wife. Like,
yes.
There's a few things going on here, Mikayla.
Yeah.
And what did we? Oh yeah, there was a pandemic and all this other chaos happening around us.
Yep.
How do you keep it balanced? How do you keep energized at work and then investing in your marriage as well?
Yeah. So for me, I'm definitely a planner. So I like to schedule things out. So it's a matter of scheduling my time, definitely scheduling in time to just be together as a couple to grow with that. Scheduling time for myself to kind of relax and recover from everything that's going on. And then I think, honestly, just to stay focused, like in work with a good attitude and everything, I have to look at the bigger picture of the mundane tasks that I might be doing. What is the ultimate goal? What are we achieving with that? Who am I actually helping with that? And that helps me keep that positive attitude and wanting to come to work versus the, okay, Monday morning rolls around, got to go to work, got to get this stuff done. So I think a big thing for me is time blocking and just managing that schedule, building in that time to have some myself time, have couple time, and just really try to find a balance between all of that.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned attitude there. Unpack that for me a little bit. What does that mean to you?
Sure. So I was always taught that attitude is a choice. So if I'm going into work and I'm grumpy, then I'm not going to be fun to be around for my coworkers or my clients. So I want to go in there with a positive attitude. So I think that's the big thing for me is attitude. Attitude is huge, especially even in training for shooting. There'll be days where I just cut the training short because my head's not in it, and I could actually be hurting myself more than I'm helping myself. So I think attitude is a huge key part of that.
Yeah. Wow. I really like that. I've seen that play out in my life, where me getting frustrated and discouraged with whatever's happening. Usually it's stuff we can't control, right?
Yeah.
Usually the stuff that frustrates me is stuff I can't control. If I'm frustrated with my performance in something, usually I can reconcile that pretty quick and figure out what I'm going to do to fix it. But the stuff that I usually get kind of caught in the mud with is usually the stuff I have zero control over. And so why am I wallowing in my frustrations and letting outside circumstances I have zero control over make me grumpy? And grumpy is a nice way of saying it. But no, I've sat there, I was in the Air Force and as a civilian police officer, I've gotten there a number of times. And in fact, actually a couple of times, this is totally random, I don't think you know this, but I went to your dad. I've sat there and roadsided him a couple of times. And I just said, hey, I need a pep talk, because right now I think I might quit. I might be done with this job. And he listened for a little bit, and then he gave me some sports analogy. And he never chewed my butt, but it was like this sports analogy that totally like connected with me because I'm big into sports, and it came back to my attitude most of the time. I needed to change my mindset, my attitude.
Yeah, my dad is huge. Most of my motivation and like idea on attitudes definitely come from him. We call it LODs. dad's lecture of the day. So we usually always had one lecture a day, and we had this little chalkboard up in the kitchen, and it'd have the motivational quote for the day. And so it'd be things like attitudes of choice, or there's two circles, the ones you can control, the ones you can't, and things like that to help us have that right mindset and be positive.
Yeah. Wow. So do your mom and dad both still compete?
Yes. My younger brother is competing now too, and my husband competes as well.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you're coaching. You've already mentioned that. So how much time does that involve for you to be coaching? Did you call it juniors?
Yes, our junior team. So while school is still in session, we do one live practice a week. And then once school gets out, we'll do 2 practices a week. And then we usually have a match over the weekend. So I'll have at least one coached match a month. And the juniors is honestly my heart and soul for the sport, especially if I honestly get way more excited when they're excelling in the sport than even just my own performance. So it's helped grow my love for the sport even more, getting to teach what I know to them and see them excel in the sport. So it's super fun. And I love them. And I mean, we're with the juniors, I'm probably in conversations with them all the time, every day. And we're watching match videos from the match we just had this weekend, kind of doing some video review of what to work on. And already putting that into practice for what we want to work on Thursday for our next upcoming match. So it's a lot of fun.
Hey, let's talk about that for a little bit. I've always felt like, and I think I was taught this at some point, but once you go from being a practitioner to being a coach, where you have to break down the steps of the skill and teach someone else, I really feel like that's always taken my skill level just to another level. What has your experience been with that?
Honestly, the same. I've become a better shooter, getting to coach these kiddos. And then even just with competition, there's a little bit of it. Cause like my dad always calls it when he was coaching me, prideful, hurtful joy when I would beat him. So it's that same pressure of, yeah, I want to help these kids excel, but oh my goodness, I better stay on top of it too, cause I don't want them beating me, kind of thing. So it's kind of that prideful, hurtful when they do. And that's honestly one of the things I absolutely love about our sport is even though it's an individual performance, once you step up to the line, it's just me, it's just what I'm bringing to the table, but anything else is honestly team oriented, trying to find that best stage plan. We all converse together. And then being able to step up to the line for me to do my performance. Yeah, when I do that, I want to win. But when I'm not on the line, I can fully and full-heartedly be rooting for these kids and be rooting for my friends and my family as well. So I love that dynamic of the sport with it. And it's honestly such a cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah. Hey, so you guys had the Inland Empire Sectional this last weekend, is that right?
Yes, we did.
So who won? You or your dad?
So I actually beat my dad this go around. He wasn't too happy about it.
Well, I'm telling you, as a dad, he may have been not too happy as a competitive guy, because I know he's extremely competitive, but I can tell you as a dad, he was thrilled, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. Yeah, he was very proud of me. Yeah, I took second in my division. And then we had our kiddos at that match too. So some of them, it was their very first competition. It was honestly some hard shooting we were faced with last weekend, and they stepped up to the plate. And it was, I'm so much more excited about their performances than my own at that match. But yeah, really, really good things happened this past weekend.
That's awesome. Hey, I got to say this for the listeners, because you're not going to say it. You're really good. And this is why I know that. I really had no gauge based on, I watch your videos and stuff like that, because I think it's pretty remarkable, and just watching how quickly you move through a stage. But I know how good of a shooter your dad is. I was in the Air Force, I was a firearms instructor, and I was considered an expert based on my shooting scores and all that kind of stuff. Did some shooting competitions within the military. And when I got out of the military and joined civilian law enforcement, I walked into it as if I knew nothing. I was like, I'm not going to be that guy that walks in going, I already know this stuff. So I walked in and I forgot everything. And I listened to everything the instructors told me to do at the police academy. And I became a better shooter. And I dry fired every single morning. Every single morning I was going down to the range and doing dry fire drills. And I got really, really good. And then I left my police department on the west side of the state, came over here, joined the SWAT team. And once again, your dad looked at me and went, okay, you need to change this. You need to change this. And I 100% listened to him again, because my thought again, as a good student, this person might know more than me. And so I'm going to give it a shot. And my shooting went to another level. And all of that said, I was like middle of the pack on our SWAT team. And your dad was always one of the top competitors. So when you outscored your dad, it says an awful lot of your trade, of your skill. So remarkable, Mikayla. I love it.
Thank you.
So what's next? So you had this sectional. What's the next competition? Is it like a regional thing? Is there like a national thing? How does that work?
Yes, so our nation is broken up into what we call areas. So I believe there's 8 or 9 of them. We are in Area 1, and Area 1 consists of the 8 northwesternmost states. So we include Alaska, Hawaii, Idaho, Oregon, Washington. And so beginning of June, we have the Area 1 championships coming up. So that is the next big one. And then anything above area, you go up to nationals, which is towards the end of this year.
Awesome. Awesome. Where's that going to be at?
Nationals from my division this year is held in Colorado.
Okay. Now, hey, if anyone goes to the gun store and looks on the shelves, there's been a huge shortage of pretty much everything ammunition related. And I don't know, is it just the primers or the bullets, or is it everything?
It can be hard to find all the components, but primers are the big one.
So how you kind of need bullets. It's just kind of part of the thing of being a competitive shooter. So what are you all doing to sit there and stay at the top of your game?
Yeah, we definitely had to make a change in how we're practicing. We call it every round counts. Typically it's not uncommon for us to go to the practice range and send hundreds of rounds downrange in a single practice. So now we're trying to confine that more to a 50 round count, really focusing on a drill, and then literally tracking every shot. So we'll do a 5-round drill, and I'm going to write down what my draw time was, what my split time, so that's multiple rounds on a target is a split, what my transition is, which is going from target 1 to target 2, if I have a reload. So mapping out all of those times, looking at what my score on target is as we continue to do these drills, and see where I can be making those changes. And we play a game of little bits. So I said I took second this past weekend, and I broke that down because I love to be analytical, which I have to do for my day job. And it actually came down to 1 delta, which is the furthest scoring zone, and about 8/10 time-wise per stage. And we had 10 stages in that match. So game of little bits. So I had to be able to look at my videos and see where I could find or make back about 8/10 of a second on each stage.
Wow, that's really breaking it down. And then what do you do once you've got that data? Now, how do you take that and put it into your training so that, again, the process is there so that you have the outcome that you want?
Yep. So the first thing I do is I look at my match scores and I break it down compared to whoever won that stage. Where did they beat me? Was it points? Was it mostly time? Maybe a little bit of both. And then I look back on my video and I just kind of watch, and I look at my movement and I see, did it flow? And I just try to pick out and look at for those little things. And then as I narrow things down, I can put that into my practice. So maybe my movement wasn't as consistent. What I found out this last match was we had a lot of partial targets, which means they had coverings on them, like a black zone or a no-shoot target, which we get penalty points if we hit. We call those control targets. So you have attack and control. Attack targets usually mean they're not hard to hit. You just pop up, right? No time spent on those 2 rounds. Whereas a control target, now I really have to think about my trigger, really make sure my sights are aligned to hit that target. And I noticed I was taking a lot more time being very cautious, wanting to get my points on those partials. So for me, going into Area 1, a lot of my practice is going to be on partial targets to build my comfort zone around those. So things like that, picking out trying to find where I might have not measured up to who took first there, and then trying to pick out those smaller details that I can put into drills and really try to refine and improve.
So those partials, if I was going to translate that into the cop world, that'd be like a hostage then, right?
Yes.
There's a hostage standing in front of the bad guy. I don't want to hit the hostage. unless you're watching, what was his name? One of the Reeves brothers and the show Speed, where he says to shoot the hostage. Bad idea. Don't shoot the hostage ever, folks. You don't want to hit the hostage, only the bad guy, so that everyone gets to go home safely. Well, I guess not the bad guy at that point, especially if you get 2 A zones. But I like it. Boy, there was something else I wanted to ask there as you were saying that, and it has escaped me. So it probably wasn't very important. Yeah, it has totally escaped me. Darn it. Oh, I know what it was. I saw you. This was one of the videos I think that you had put together on your Instagram account, and you were talking about, and this gets back to mindset, I feel like a little bit, when you get, so like next is going to be area, right?
Yes.
All right. So for area, you'll get something in advance that gives you an idea. Like you said, this next one's going to have a lot of partials. That gives you an idea of what the stages are going to look like. And then you take some of that information and you start gaming it right now. So, but you don't game everything, you said in the video. So can you unpack that for me a little bit? Like what do you game, and why not sit there and game the entire stage?
Yes. So going into a major match, they'll have what's called a match book, because all the stages they do have to be approved by our match officials to make sure they meet requirements and rules. And so then within a given time frame, they'll send that match book out to competitors, which lets us know things like how much ammo we need to be bringing for that match. And so we get to see a little diagram of each of the stages. And so when I look at that matchbook, I'm looking at things like, what are the start positions for each stage? And that's things that I can incorporate into my dry fire so that it's not something I'm uncommon with, or I don't already have familiarity with once I get there. And then 2, I'm just kind of looking at what the targets look like. So this match we did this past weekend, on the diagrams, I could see it was a lot of partial targets. So it's probably going to be a pretty heavy accuracy match. So I knew I wanted to be doing dry fire and practice on partials to prepare for that. So same thing with area. And then we have a bunch of different targets that can come into play. So we look at, are there different moving targets? Anything wonky that I might not do all the time, that I want to refine that skill before I get there. What I don't want to do is, I have the map of the stage in front of me, but what's on that piece of paper can change when we get to that match in person in little ways. So I never want to actually plan out like, oh, I'm going to run to this position and shoot this target from this, just from seeing the match book, because that can be really different on paper than seeing it in person. And honestly, finding the most efficient stage plan comes down to what flows the best. So I have to be able to see what is my body doing, where's my momentum leaning in each of those positions. And so that's something I have to do in person. But from that match book, I can look at different target types and different start positions that I can then incorporate into my training leading up to that match.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, one of the common questions I get, just military background, law enforcement, is people always, if someone wants to buy a gun, they're always asking me, for recommendations. And so, and quite frankly, you have more gun handling than I do. I really think so. Just hearing the discipline of how often, because I'm not doing dry fire drills every single morning. And I feel like why the heck am I not? Like, why not, Mikayla? Like, this is super easy. I know how to do it. I've done it before in my life, but I'm just sitting there thinking, you not only gun handling, but also safe gun handling. And so for any listeners that are like, you know what, it's been a crazy couple of years. I want to go out and buy a gun. I want to get a concealed carry permit, or I just want to buy a gun and keep it in my house. What kind of advice do you give people that don't have hardly any background in handling a gun, that are saying that maybe they're going to go buy a gun?
Sure. So the biggest piece of advice is, especially when thinking of it for a defense purpose, is that bigger is better. To the point of, if you can conceal it, obviously we got to play that balance, something you can conceal if that's what your intent is, but bigger is better. And that is, I think, especially for like the ladies out there, they'll go to the gun counter and they must just think like we're small and petite, or we just want to get started, so we just want something small, and so they'll try to give us the baby guns. Well, the problem with the baby guns is it takes the same exact spring as the bigger guns. So the more compact you put that spring, the more snappy that gun's going to be in recoil, which means they are not fun to shoot. And you can be more accurate with a bigger gun because of that slightly softer recoil. So bigger is better. And then there's obviously different rounds. 9mm kind of ruling the world right now because it can do just as much damage as the bigger rounds, but you can get more in the gun. So typically the common gun to go with right now for defensive is a 9mm. And then again, bigger is better. And it's kind of just a matter of what you like best. You'll find people that are huge into team Glock, people who are huge into team SIG, and that just comes down to preference.
Yeah. What are you? What team are you in?
So most of our competition guns, we always say there's nothing stock about a stock race car, and that's very true in the gun world. So nothing of my guns is off the counter. But probably the most of our guns just name brand guns. My one that I'm actually competing with this year was custom built for me. But I have a SIG, and my carry gun is a SIG. So probably Team SIG.
Okay. I like it. Yeah. My last agency, we had 6 hours, and it was a remarkable gun. I enjoyed it. So they have the gun. So they selected it. They didn't let the salesperson pull one over on them by getting the cute little 380. And now they're at home and they're terrified. I can't tell you how many people, Mikayla, that told me, I went out and bought a gun, but I could never use it. I'm sitting there thinking, no, why do you have a gun? If you can never use it, it's okay. I still like you. Buy bigger locks, get longer screws to go in your hinge side, buy an alarm system and a big dog, right? Buy a big dog that loves you, but is going to eat bad people. But so the person looks at you and says, no, I'm keeping my gun. What next then?
So we always say it's not about being comfortable with the gun, but it's about being confident. So we do firearms training classes, and we'll get this a lot where students have the guns, but they've never fired them. Want to if they have to in a bad situation, they want to know more about it. And so honestly, I think it's a matter of, to be confident with that gun, you have to know how it works. How should I hold it? Grip and stance play a huge deal into your accuracy. And again, we don't care about your comfort so much when we're shooting, but being confident. And to be able to place a good round and manage that recoil, it takes a good grip and a good stance to be able to do that. So you want to take advantage of what the body naturally can do to help that gun operate at its top performance. And so I think it's just a matter of, honestly, just like I say, we do dry fire, you don't have to have any live ammunition in the gun, but you rack the slide, hit the mag release button, like play with the different features on the gun to really get comfortable and kind of know your way around that gun. So if you get into a position where you have to use it, you have the knowledge to be able to use that. And I think a big thing of that, we've been talking about mindset, comes back to mindset, because I know a lot of people at work. So I work in the real estate industry. And so, I mean, realtors are going into houses with people they don't know. So it's a huge safety concern sometimes, especially for our female realtors. And so some of them are just not comfortable. They're like, I don't think I could ever play a gun or point a gun at another human. But the problem is, like, evil is out there. And so we correlate evil to a rattlesnake. So if you see a rattlesnake coiled up and it's just rattling its tail and you're like, oh, don't bite me, don't bite me. You can't reason with that rattlesnake. Same thing, you can't reason with evil. So are you going to play the victim, or are you going to go home at the end of the day to your family? So that's kind of the mindset that we play with. And it can be hard to be in that mindset of, I'm going to point this gun at somebody if it comes down to it.
Yeah. And I really look at it as an investment, Mikayla. I look at it, if you are going to invest the money into buying a firearm, one, I think it's a wise thing to do, as long as you aren't terrified by it. Or even if you are terrified, you need to go get some training. Get some formal training. Don't just invest in the gun. Invest money in the training so that you feel competent, or what'd you say, confident?
Confident, yeah.
I like confident. I like that word. So that you feel confident with that if you had to pull it out. And again, I've had folks say, well, I just don't know if I could do that. I'm like, well, okay, well, let's talk a scenario. So someone breaks into your house and they are coming at your kids and they're going to do bad things to your kids. What are you going to do? Oh, I will. And then the violence comes out, right? Then Mama Bear comes out. And I'm like, excellent. Okay. So that's the point. The chances of someone breaking into your house are really, really low, but I've had it happen. I've been at home sleeping when all of a sudden someone was trying to get in my door, and I had the confidence I had a whole ton of training though, right? In my profession to sit there and stand in a position in my house and of course call 911, let the uniforms get there. But then to sit there and assure my family, you guys are going to be okay. This person is not going to harm you. You guys are going to be okay. But yeah, I like the training piece. Now you guys offer a number of different classes from just like basic safety classes, I think, to actual putting rounds down range. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, we start all of our students off in 2 classes, and it doesn't matter which order they're taken. One is our practical handgun, which is the skill side that's taking you to the range. We're going to learn how the gun operates, how to shoot it. And then one is our practical defense, and that's actually more of the defensive side. And that's what does the law say about when I can use defense if I need to. And everybody wants that no go, no go line. Which the law doesn't draw for us. So in that class, we kind of determine here's the range of what the law says, and we help our students draw that line for themselves based on their own values and morals. And those lines are going to fall well within those range. And then once the students have both of those classes, then we have a bunch of other classes to help increase their skills based on what their goal is, more of a concealed carry defense side or more of a competition side.
Now, is the juniors team named the same thing as the company? Is both Practical Edge?
Practical Edge. Yep.
I love it. I love it. Here's the struggle though. Like, again, I've been in this game long enough. And then again, what I did in the Air Force, I think I could probably sniff out someone who's just going to take my money and tell me to shoot in this direction and not hurt anyone. If someone was really trying to figure out what company to go to, like how do you find a competent shooting company? Do you have any gauge on what people could do? And I say shooting company, what I'm meaning is a firearms instructor that's going to teach you how to safely handle a gun if you don't already know how to do it.
Yeah, I guess that's a good question. I guess I would definitely look at what their background is. Hopefully they'd have their credentials up on their website that you could look at. I think one of the biggest one that you see is that they're an NRA certified instructor, which not bashing NRA at all, but it's not actually a hard certificate to get, to the point my husband got it when he was like 13 years old. I mean, it's not a hard certificate to get. So looking at, do they actually have background in law enforcement, in military, in competition, in something that's actually, because it's almost kind of like riding a bike, where if you're not constantly using those skills, you're not going to be as well at those skills. So you definitely want someone who's around guns to know it, and also an instructor that's coming about it, of because shooting's not, it's not a scary thing. It's a fun thing. I mean, we do it as a sport. I carry now because I'm old enough too, and I know that there's evil in the world, but that is definitely not my mindset. I do it because of the sport, same as tennis and soccer and volleyball and all of those. And so it's a fun thing. And so with an instructor, it should be a fun thing, not someone just being a drill sergeant and, you know, this is a tool that can harm people. So someone that can make it fun, really break it down and explain it, but definitely taking a look at what their credentials are.
I like it. No, I think that's a really wise thing, especially with the internet nowadays, because that kind of stuff should be, whether it's a website, whether it's a Facebook page, whatever they're using as their forward-facing business identifier, we should be able to see that kind of stuff on there.
Yes, and you can tell by grip they teach too. If they do the cup and saucer, that's old school.
That's like 1975, folks.
Yes.
Cup and saucers, 1975. Mikayla, you are one, giving me perspective, and that's why I asked if you would be on the podcast. But two, I think, I mean, there's a few things that all of us need to do. We need to figure out what are the goals that we're striving for in life, professional goals in our relationship. Maybe the goal is my spouse and I haven't been on a date in a year. Well, you know what? You need to schedule that. It ain't going to happen. Nothing in life that's worth doing just happens, right? Like all of it takes discipline and scheduling and actually follow through.
Oh yeah,
make it happen.
Totally agree.
And I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, my wife's a grown woman, so she can sit there and do this on her own, but I certainly have more of a background. And I can't remember the last time I had her do dry fire here in my house. We're sitting around, it's a Tuesday, right? Like, what are we going to do? Do we watch some movie that we watched 10 times? Or do we, go in the garage and set up some kind of a target system and have a little fun doing some dry fire drills? So I'm having these visions, Mikayla, where you're going to make me better. You're going to make me better the next time I go out and compete against your dad. I don't know if I'm going to beat him, but I might do just a little bit better. I might get within a glimpse of his time versus being further behind it. So, hey, if people want to follow you, what's the best way for people to do that? What kind of social media channels or other things do you have going that people can take a look at?
Yep. So I'm definitely most active on Instagram, and that's Hill of a Shooter. So my last name, Hill. I technically have a Facebook because, again, I do marketing for my day job as a marketer, but because I do it all for work, I never really liked doing it for myself. So it's really kind of more a focus this year, just for my sponsors and learning the algorithm changes that I've been focusing on my own personal. So Instagram's where I'm at. Occasionally you'll see me pop up on Facebook or YouTube.
Okay, I like it. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I look at time as being probably the most valuable commodity. I can't buy more of it. It's just here and it passes for all of us. So I really appreciate you carving out time for me and my listeners tonight.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Have a great night.
You too.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what did you think? Hey, if you're consuming this on a podcast platform, you're going to need to go check out the YouTube video. And then also you're going to need to check out Mikayla Hill's Instagram account. It's down in the comments below. And you got to check out the fierce competitor that this young lady is. Her sweet voice might make you misunderstand the ferocious athlete that she is when it comes to being on the shooting range. Folks, check it out today. Worth your while. Also, I would love to hear from you. Jamie and I are constantly wanting feedback. If you're consuming this on an Apple Podcast platform or Spotify, you can still rate and review us. Down at the bottom of our main page, there are 5 little stars waiting down there. We'd really appreciate a 5-star rating if we've earned it. If we haven't, folks, they're your stars. They're your stars, so you keep your stars. If we haven't earned those, maybe shoot me an email at chris@gravityct.com. Let me know what you think. Let us know how we can make it better. Maybe even some future Marriage Monday topics or guests for me to interview. Folks, we only get to live this life once. Let's go out and live it well. Take care of the people in our tribe. Take care. God bless.